Alright, so FaZe Banks is being accused of doing a crypto coin rug pull, which caused Adin Ross to lose money. Now let's take a look at a clip from this Twitter account, kick_champ.
Just listen.
Dude, can I talk about that?
Talk about that.
Why am I down money?
Because people are using you to sell. People are using your buy as like a spot to sell.
I'm
it's
down
just,
12 grand.
It's okay.
It'll go up.
People have been expecting this moment all day. Again, so a lot of people bought MLG probably today, expecting you were going to buy it and using the event of you buying it to sell it. But it's fine. Again, this is something that we're all positioned in for good reasons. There's a lot of reasons to be excited about a position like MLG.
Alright, so as you just saw, Adin Ross lost $12,000 in that clip right there. And you can see how he's really worried and really concerned, because of course he was hoping that he would be making money, and instead of that happening, he's instead losing money. And then later, when the coin's value really started to decrease, we ended up getting this leaked message from a group chat, which is the MLG official main chat, right? So this screenshot got leaked, and it's this message from FaZe Banks, and it says that Adin Ross messed this up. This community dumped on him buying, used him as exit liquidity. His ego got hurt, blamed Frank. Him and Frank got into it privately. Adin despises Frank and spins and drives a narrative about Frank selling. However, this falls on me and threads to farm the whole situation, spin it into me selling and dumping coins. When I ran the thing up from 3 million to 200 million organically, top blasted multiple times, invested a ton of money, and never ever sold. The only bad actor in this entire thing is Adin, point blank, period. Now real quick, I just want to mention that from what I understood, from what I could find, Frank, which is like this person mentioned in this message, this person Frank was actually someone involved with the back end of the whole coin and all that. And so here FaZe Banks is saying that Adin ended up blaming Frank. And then here we have this tweet from Adin Ross, and this is a tweet after he saw that screenshot, that leaked screenshot that I showed earlier. And so the tweet says, "The bank screenshot is real. It's sad. If you guys think that MLG being rugged was me, I'm sorry to tell you it wasn't. There's a reason that entire house is silent. Truth will come out eventually. I'm just more hurt on the fact someone I call my brother is behind my back." So yeah, Adin Ross obviously felt really sad, seeing that that's how FaZe Banks was talking about him in that group chat right there. And now let's take a look at some tweets from FaZe Banks. And so here's this tweet that says, "On the phone with Adin right now. We're doing a stream together tonight to address all of this. This whole thing has been wildly miscommunicated and destroyed my mental the last several months. I've wanted to more publicly talk about this situation for a while. It's sad any of this messed with me and Adin's relationship. See you guys tonight." So yeah, here you can see how FaZe Banks, of course he's trying to, kind of like damage control in this situation. He still wants to preserve the relationship with Adin Ross. And then here's another tweet from FaZe Banks, and it says, "I've never scammed anyone a day in my life. The entire narrative is unfair, and part of the reason it exists is because my FaZe name is so easily farmed and manipulated. The fact this is affecting the guys at all is whack. So for the time being, I'm gonna be stepping away from not only FaZe, but all this internet stuff. It's destroying my life inside and out. It's sad my entire life gets ruined over something I didn't even do. The real ones know. I wish I could say I'll be back, but I really don't know if I will." Alright, so this is a really big deal. FaZe Banks has actually ended up stepping down as the CEO of FaZe Clan. So yeah, it's a really big deal. And also, again, he says that, he would like to say that he's going to return, but at the same time, he doesn't know if he actually will, which is a pretty big deal too, because he's been so active online for so long, and, he's had this online presence for such a long time, and it's been a really significant online presence as well. Now, real quick, I'd just like to say that it would really help me out if you would subscribe to my channel, because I really am trying to grow this channel, so subscriptions truly do help with that. Anyway, back to the video. So then further, FaZe Banks ended up posting this story where it was this screenshot of some messages that he got from another person and his replies to those messages. So here in the screenshot, we can see how it says, "Yo, someone trying to run a smear campaign on you, yo bro." And then he replies, "It's impossible to be worried when you have real vision and talent and know in your heart of hearts you're a good person." And then the other person says, "No, like someone I know that runs all the Twitter campaigns is saying someone is going out of their way to pay pages." And then FaZe Banks replies, "Yeah, I know." And then the other person says, "Dropping 40 to 50K on spreading the narrative to place blame on you." And then, you can see how at the bottom there's that caption that he wrote, which says 40 to 50K is crazy. And yeah, no, that really is a crazy amount. And so yeah, it would be pretty wild if this actually is the case, but so far this is all I could find, and I haven't really seen any kind of like follow-up or anything else I can show you related to this exact thing that he showed here. So yeah, overall this situation is just absolutely insane. Just take a look at how FaZe Banks himself mentioned that he took the coin from $3 million up to $200 million. Right? That is just absolutely insane, man. Like, if you just think about that, like, it is pretty crazy that, like, online influencers and internet personalities are now able to, like, manifest their online presence and their influence in a way that, like, it leads to something like this, okay? Like, $200 million market cap is insane. Like, that kind of money is just absolutely crazy, dude. Like, it is pretty wild. But then, of course, we all know that it ended up crashing. And that's the crazy part, So that really high level must have been really amazing for someone looking at it and thinking, hey, I want to get in at this point, right? But then it ended up crashing and people ended up losing a lot of money. And in this specific situation, we're focusing on Adin Ross. And the thing about this is that people have seen time and time again that influencers and people like that, they end up creating all these coins, and the story is almost always the exact same, which is that the coin gets released and it starts increasing in value. It reaches this like peak level and then it drops. And when it drops really hard, because nobody wants to be the ones that are left behind holding that coin in the end. They want to be the ones who like cash out and benefit from the whole situation rather than losing money, right? So basically the strategy that people here use is that they'll buy when the price is quite low, and so their entry is pretty good. And then as the value is increasing, as the value is rising, that's really benefiting them. And, once it's at a point where they're like, okay, it seems like this is the peak level, or it's close to the peak level, or maybe it's even beyond the peak level. Maybe it starts to decrease. And somebody thinks, hey, you know what? I think this really is like the sort of final dip. And so at that point, that person exits, right? They sell. And so that way they make money. They entered at a pretty low point and they exited at a pretty high point. So that really benefited them, right? And this is basically the thing that everybody is trying to do at that point. So you're competing with all the other people in that situation as well. And so those end up being the winners. But then if you take a look at the losers, what happens to them is that they'll enter at a certain point, right? and then maybe the value goes up at that point, or maybe it actually just starts to go down right as they purchase it. But basically what ends up happening is that in the end, the point at which they exit, the point at which they sell, ends up being lower than the point at which they bought in. And so yeah guys, those were just my thoughts on the situation, and now I'm interested in hearing what you think down in the comments below. So leave a comment letting me know what you think, and we can have a discussion down there. And with all that being said guys, this is Alexi signing out.